And then we have a video here about Marvel Rivals is a wake-up call, okay, from Legendary Drops. So we're going to watch that in a second. Yeah, I think, look, very smart for them to do what they're doing as far as putting multiple characters in per season. You guys are like, oh, they're going to put like one character. I was like, no, not in a game like this. They have to put multiple characters in. I'm glad they're at least bringing us the Fantastic Four. But again, I think 6 would be minimum, because then everyone that wants to be a new character can play a new character on a team, right? Travis says 30. To be honest, 30. They have like 2,000 or more characters to put in, so we'll take anyone but Snowflake and Safe Space. The fact that they have so many characters, and this is why I'm saying that this is why they need to put 4, 6, 8 characters per season, because even if it's just 4 seasons, and let's say they do 4 characters, right, for 4 seasons, that's only 16 characters for the year. In the grand scheme of things, that's nothing, especially if the game only stays around for 2 years, 3 years, right? Even if you did that for 5 years, you're only getting around 70 characters, okay? And there's hundreds, if not thousands, of characters they can bring in and just keep the game going and keep it relevant. I would rather them put in more characters and the game lasts 3 to 5 years than put in very few characters and last 2 to 3 years, you know? That's just me. What's going on, Mo? This game has legs, no question. I think if done correctly, I think they can fumble the ball. But if they keep doing what they're doing, I think it has legs. Krebsy brought it up last night. He's like, I don't think it has legs. He says 2-3 years, I think. I think it could definitely go 3 to 5. If done correctly, right? If done correctly. All right. Let's watch this. It's about 31 minutes long.
Marvel Rivals is a reckoning. 20 million players in under 2 weeks. That is insane.
This video, by the way, is 8 days old, 9 days old. 9 days old. Oh, wow. 231,000 views, and he's got 231,000 subscribers. That means everyone has watched it. That's a good ratio right there. It's a damn good ratio.
On. It's light, it's fun, it's flashy, it has some of the best character designs I have ever seen in any Marvel property, period. And on top of that, it has a battle pass that doesn't expire. Thank you! Thank you! Thank you so much for this lesson that you are teaching to the industry, because they need to learn it. And that's exactly what this game is doing right now, because this entire year, we have heard the same line of garbage towed across the entire industry as to why live service games have been failing. It's not the character designs. The people who are talking about that are toxic. It's not that we don't understand what the players want. It's that there's too much competition.
No, the character designs are the reason games succeed or don't succeed. Not the only reason, but it's a major reason.
In the industry right now, it's not the gameplay. It's because people just aren't, interested in hero shooters anymore. Really.
No, this is what Overwatch to me is one of the biggest fumbles. Okay, Overwatch 2, I should say, because they sold it on a bill of goods that it was going to be better than Overwatch 1, and then they just gave us Overwatch 1 again. They maddened it.
Is that what it looks like to you? All of this back and forth while feigning ignorance, and we've had some incredible games this year. We've had some incredibly popular games this year. But we haven't had that game that stood as definitive proof as to what the players have been asking for a long time. We haven't had that, 20 million players in under 2 weeks kind of proof. And that's exactly what Marvel Rivals is.
Yeah, he makes really good content, Eclipse. I reached out to him to see if he would come on the podcast. He's never got back to me. I reached out to a lot of people that just want to come on and chat. He seems like a really down-to-earth person.
It's a very fun game. And that's the main reason why people are playing it. It came out of left field for me. I'm actually a bit shocked to see. Actually, I'm not that shocked to see how popular the game is, because after playing it, you can see why everybody's playing it right now. But I think that this game stands as a lesson for the rest of the industry. And I think in a lot of ways, the people that were talking about live service games this year and why they were failing, they might need to go into hiding after this one. So you could use today's sponsor.
All right.
In a year in which we've seen many live service games fail, and a few of them even shut down within the same year that they were released, one now stands as the crowned king of 2024. The list of excuses has grown incredibly long. The players are sick of being ignored, and in many ways, for those players who have been mistreated by other games, studios, and publishers, and subsequently lost interest and hope in those games, Marvel Rivals stands as their new refuge. Right at the end of the year...
Here's the thing. This is what I said before Marvel Rivals came out. I really wish there was a PvE game mode inside of this, because Overwatch said they were going to put PvE content in their game, and then they didn't. And before the game even came out, before the beta came out, the alpha, whatever that we played, I said that they needed to put, and obviously they said they're not putting a PvE, but it could come down the line, Danny Koo said. But they needed to put, in my opinion, a PvE kind of content like Overwatch was going to do with Overwatch 2, because they would have capitalized. So many people were hyped about Overwatch 2 having some sort of PvE content in there, and then they just said they scrapped it. And if Marvel came out and said, well, here you go, we have it, it would have just been the bay of this guy just pouring salt on them, right? And it would have been perfect, because they would have came in, swooped in, and said, well, we have it. And then Overwatch would have put it in, because they had competition that was putting it in. You know what I mean?
In the same week as the release of Path of Exile 2's early access, the game climbed to 480,000 concurrent players on Steam, while pulling similar numbers across PlayStation and Xbox. The developer announced in just under 3 days that the game had reached 10 million players. Just over a week later, they would update that number to 20 million players.
Yep.
Regardless of it being free to play or having the Marvel
So within 10 days, they made 20 million.
IP, while those are definitely factors here, we've seen plenty of games, especially live service games, fail to garner any level of success. However, Marvel Rivals seems to have something that everyone else is missing.
Fun, and the IP that people want to know about, right? Marvel has 80 years of building characters, and we love the characters. We love the cartoons when we were kids. We love the comics. We love the movies, right? This is what it has going for it.
Now, I've been busy with other content and other games. However, whenever I get the chance to, I've been logging in and playing with friends. This game feels incredible to play, and that's something to take note of. That is incredibly important here.
Yeah, but Jason, you notice a lot of people don't talk about it, because we shouldn't have to talk about how smooth it ran, because that should be the standard, right? Like, it was flawless, basically, when it came out, as far as launching with smooth. But no one talks about it, because that should be the norm. No one should have to talk about how smooth it came out. We bring it up because of all the non-smooth games that come out when they launch, and they have so many problems.
Especially in this genre, there are very few performance issues. The controls feel fantastic. Every character feels entirely distinct from the other. We aren't beating the accusations here, as the great and wise Mike Ybarra so brazenly...
Yeah, we covered this. Mike Ybarra saying that, Widowmaker in Overwatch versus Black Widow. Like, come on, bro. We all know that Widowmaker was influenced by Black Widow. Stop it.
Lee pointed out on Twitter, and then later was shamed into deleting the comment, Marvel Rivals is essentially Overwatch. But there is a lot more here than just a fresh coat of paint. Marvel Rivals is a live service competitive multiplayer game developed by NetEase, offering players the opportunity to fight in an Overwatch-style game using iconic Marvel superheroes and villains. This game is the quintessential hero shooter, offering a roster of beloved characters, including the likes of Spider-Man.
Oh, and can I say, this is a copy of Overwatch, but Overwatch is a copy of Team Fortress 2, right? And Team Fortress 2 had a thing, and then Overwatch came in and made it a little bit better. And then Overwatch got overtaken by Marvel Rivals now, because they made Marvel Rivals just a little bit better than Overwatch, right? Because, look, Apple didn't create the phone, but they made the phone better. You see what I'm saying? And that's what competition does, right? You don't have to come and create the thing, but you got to make the thing better. And I think with the team ups and with the IP, it's just a match made in heaven.
And Magneto, Storm, Iron Man, Captain America, and more. What really sets Marvel Rivals apart from many of the other live service games is its commitment to staying true to that Marvel brand, offering a staggering 33 heroes at launch, all with abilities and...
I'll say it 1,000 times. God, I wish Marvel's Avengers had the look and style of this game.
skills that genuinely suit that character, combined with arguably some of the best character designs in all of Marvel. I think that's where Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League really went wrong. They didn't stay on brand. They forced the characters and the setting into a looter-shooter mold for profit purposes. None of the characters really used any of their trademark abilities, and everyone used generic weapons and guns to fuel that looter-shooter formula. In Marvel Rivals, you are playing as those heroes, fulfilling roles that they are best suited for and using abilities that make sense for that character. What's really interesting with Marvel Rivals, and this is pretty much across the board, is there is a much higher skill ceiling due to the depth of mechanics between each characters and how they synergize together. Characters in the game have unique team-up.
That's what I said, Jason. You must have just got in. You must have literally just got in, because that's exactly what I just said 3 minutes ago. 3 minutes ago, I said, I think, and I said this months before we even played the beta and alpha for this game. I said, imagine if they came in and said, well, we're putting the PvE mode that Overwatch didn't.
Up abilities, passive bonuses, and activated abilities that can only be unlocked when you're actually pairing them with specific allies. For example,
I think they put it in. If Marvel Rivals wants to just squish Overwatch 2, put the PvE in. Put the PvE story mode in, and Overwatch 2 will go by. No one will play it. Ever.
Warlock with Mantis or Star-Lord, well, he'll grant both of them a free revive upon death. This is something that
I don't even think you need 40 hours. I don't think you need 40 hours. You can literally... God, they could make so much money off of this, Water. Imagine every season they come in, they put the Fantastic Four in, right? And then all of a sudden there's a comic that you're doing the stories through the comics of PvE, and it's just a Fantastic Four story. And then all of a sudden you want to buy the Thor story. I said the same fucking thing for Marvel's Avengers, right? Each story comes in and you buy the comic, and it comes with the skins, it comes with the characters things, right? So not only are you buying like Thor's skin, but you're buying his story, his PvE story. You don't have to buy it if you don't want it, but if you buy it, you get skins and emotes and all this other stuff, and you get to play single player. It's a comic book. You're literally selling comic books, but interactive comic books.
I think really adds a little bit of extra flavor that this genre has been missing. That depth and flexibility doesn't just end with team-ups, you see it across the individual skills of the heroes themselves. In Overwatch, as an example, Lucio can pump it.
Right, Eclipse. Like a 5-hour thing. It doesn't need to be like a 20, 30-hour campaign. It's just missions. It's just little stories. It's completing the comic of that character.
Up, boost speed and healing, and he can knock enemies back, and honestly, that's about it. His closest comparison in Marvel Rivals, Luna Snow can use precision to heal her allies, deal damage. She can give out shields. She can deal bonus damage with ice shards and slow enemies down. She can empower her abilities to pierce through enemies and allies.
Because think about that. Think about that for a second. It would be a shit ton of content. There's 33 characters in the game right now. Okay? If you like Luna Snow, then you could purchase the comic of Luna Snow. It comes with skins. Right? $23 for just her content with the skins plus the single player campaign type of thing for 3-4 hours of campaign. And I'll do that 33 times. Come on, bro. That's 120 hours. Right? That's 136 hours of content if it was just 3 to 4 hours per character.
And she has an ultimate that can either heal or increase.
And you're paying $20 for the comic, the emotes, the skins, right? And the interactiveness of it. That's like $2,000.
Damage. There's a lot more in the way of skill expression and role flexibility across the entire game. Now, what that means in gameplay is that while Marvel Rivals is a bit less accessible than Overwatch is, it has a higher barrier to entry for competitive play due to the depth of the character roster and their abilities, but a meta is much harder to pin down in a game like this. There is a lot more in the way of individual skill expression between each character, and by extension, every match feels much more fresh because not every player plays the same hero the same way.
Right.
I spent most of my time playing as Psylocke. I love this character. I love her in the Marvel Universe. I absolutely love her design in this game, and she's incredibly fun in Marvel Rivals. I think that in many ways, this game's biggest strength isn't about how characters fulfill their roles. It's about how the game provides this layer of player agency that I otherwise don't feel like I get in other games. I'm not a frontliner. I don't really like being in the mix. I like sneaking around, peppering enemies with a bit of damage from the sidelines to support other characters. I ignore the objectives and catch players who freshly respawn that are trying to get back to their
What's going on,
team, and
PS5?
then I'll drop in out of nowhere with an ultimate to take out a bunch of enemies and disrupt the point and then fade back into the shadows. I want everyone to forget that I'm even there until it's too late. Marvel Rivals has the vision to allow players to be able to play their own role rather than the one that the game assigns to them.
Right.
The minute that this game came out, I started getting Discord notifications. I got messages from friends. Have you heard about the game? Are you going to play the game? Do you know anybody else that's playing the game? And that is incredibly special for a game like this because that's exactly what the developer wants, and that's exactly what a community.
Think how cool it would be also if they did the PvE content where you did like a 4-player co-op mission or a 6-player co-op mission where you could do boss fights. Imagine having a battle where you go up against Galactus, right? You do like little strikes or whatever. Come on, man. What about if you did some content where sorry, I didn't mean to pause you on your face. That's even worse. All right, we'll put it there. What about if you did some content where instead of like there's strikes or whatnot, but play the character and you beat certain amount of characters and it opens up different things, right? Or different boss fights. I don't want to say like raids, but you could like use the characters and see if you can go through like a gauntlet type of thing. I don't know. There's so much they could do.
The game assigns to them. The minute that this game came out, I started getting Discord notifications. I got messages from friends. Have you heard about the game? Are you going to play?
No, I don't want the MMO of it. I mean, I love the MMO back in the day, right, Worlds? But what I'm saying is I don't need my character to level up, right? I don't need my character to level up. I don't need to have Hulk level up and become more powerful. The skills that he already has and the skills all the other characters have, just play a mission and you have to try to beat the boss, and you guys are 6 heroes trying to beat this boss. And then all of a sudden they bring another boss in for a different season. Like, that's it. And then you can have little things in the background. Beat the boss with this character. Beat the boss with that character. Beat the boss with this. There's just so many things they could do. And they don't have to do so complicated things. Bring a boss fight in. Let me have a one-on-one fight with a character. You know what I mean?
Game? Do you know
just with the
else
sets that they already have in the game.
That's playing the game, and that is incredibly special for a game like this because that's exactly what the developer wants, and that's exactly what a community wants for this kind of game because you want more people that are playing it. You want people to go out and try to find more people to play the game with. And it just goes to show just how popular this game has become in such a short amount of time. And I think
it is a lot more fun to play with people. I played with Mr. Luke the other day and a couple of his buds, and I didn't play it up to that point with anybody except for randos. And when you're playing with people that you're actually talking to and playing, much better game.
I think it's going to continue to grow in popularity because it is a really fun game, and a lot of people are really liking it right now. And in a lot of ways, it reminds me of the launch of the original Overwatch. And not just because of all the images people have been sharing online. What is up with people's obsession with wanting to put a big, I'm just not even going to touch that.
Overwatch has got so much porn for Overwatch characters.
That one. It feels like you're eating popcorn. Just one more. And the next thing you know,
Good analogy. Yeah. I want to play one more. I just want to play one more match.
Hours have gone by. You've been swapping.
It's like popping a can of Pringles.
Between these different matches where it's chaotic and people are still trying to learn how to play the game. Everybody's kind of out for themselves. And then you drop into a match that almost feels surgical where everybody understands their role. They know what they need to do. They understand the maps. And it just feels great to play. And I think if there was one thing that I had to point out and say, like, this is Marvel Rivals' biggest strength, and it's even bigger than the Marvel Rival or Marvel IP itself, and it's just that the game feels really good to play. And that's something that I think a lot of studios have gotten wrong over the last couple of years.
Imagine making a game fun, and it also looks good.
There's no hit registration problems. There's no netcode issues. There's no disconnects. I haven't had any.
Yeah, there's no X-Defiant netcode issues. It runs, it works. Imagine.
Problems with FPS or anything like that. The menus are really easy to navigate. The UI is super clean. I don't have any problem with being able to tell allies from enemies in the game. I can't tell you how many times I've ran into games like that. And yeah, it just feels really good to play. The animations are solid. The controls feel really good. The character abilities make sense and look really cool, but nothing.
Yeah, the small detail of the character's abilities make sense. And they're also, again, everyone's first initial thing is this person's OP, this person's too weak. But now we're like 2 or 3 weeks in, and people are like, yeah, no, that person's not OP. Like, it's a really good balance. Really, really good balance.
Ever really, obfuscates your vision while you're playing the game, which is really important in a game like this. And that's something that they get right. And I think that goes a really long way with something like this. And one of the other things that I like as well is that they're not going to paywall characters behind battle passes or microtransactions.
Right, all the characters are there. They're not locked behind anything. I would be okay, like I said earlier, if you give me a comic book and there's like skins attached to that comic book, and as you complete the missions and whatnot, you unlock them. Cool, right? Then you wouldn't have to worry about battle passes or a standalone thing. You buy the comic, you complete the comic whenever you complete the comic.
They're just keeping it cosmetic. It's the best way for you to be able to do it with a game like this. And something that I really like is that you actually have to go looking for the monetization. It's not just in your face. And I'm going to
That's true. When you log in, the store page doesn't pop up right in front of your face. It's there. It has a little marker, but it doesn't pop up. Did you check out the new skin? Like, none of that. There's the little things on the side. That's it.
Trigger some people when I bring this up. But those games that like to hit you with like 4 or 5 different notifications or menus of like different things that they're trying to sell you before you can even get in to play the game in the first place.
They don't do that here yet.
Marvel Rivals does not have that.
Hopefully.
Open the game, press play. You're in a match. Simple as that. And by the way, incredibly quick match times. I mean, you hit it and it's just like match found. There's no...
Well, match time is good, but we're finding out there's bots, so it could be because you're going against bots, you don't know it, or it's because there's a shit ton of people playing, or both.
Delay or anything like that. It's great. I love it. And, in a lot of ways, when I'm looking at this game, I think that I look at the industry and I see how they've been covering it, talking about its success in the reviews and things like that. And they're really downplaying it. They're oversimplifying it. Well, it's the Marvel IP. Well, it's a free-to-play game. That's the reason why this game is doing so.
Well, those are reasons. But at the same time, it's because it's a good game, and it's Marvel, and it's a fun game.
Well, and they're really underselling it, because I think the truth is a lot more nuanced than that. Marvel Rivals doesn't just replicate what others have done right. It also does better what others did wrong.
And it's a popular IP.
And in that, what they're doing is they're picking up all the players that have been left behind.
Yeah, Overwatch, not respecting the players, lying straight to your face about what they were going to do with Overwatch 2, and then they didn't.
A really popular discussion that I've seen recently is both games executives and games media that have been writing this line of games being ripoffs of successful games, and that's the major...
All games are ripoffs of other games. All games are ripoffs of other games. And if a game is original and it's new and it's different, then people will rip it off and make that.
Major factor as to why those games have been able to find any success, which, yeah, duh. But at the exact same time, there's more to it than that, and that undermines the success of that game. We saw the same thing with Palworld on its release. Its design and gameplay elements were definitely emulating Pokemon. There's no doubt about that. But
Pokemon, Ark Survival, right? It's taking a bunch of games and merging them together to make its own game. But it took pieces from it.
But a mere copy doesn't find 25 million players the way that Palworld did. Or now 20 million players for Marvel Rivals and its inspiration that's taken from Overwatch. Now, I will say I find it incredibly rich to see that Mike Ybarra, ex-Blizzard president turned sports betting CEO, now there's a career change that makes...
Oh, is he in sports betting now, Mike Ybarra?
A lot of sense. It tells you a lot about the industry today, now doesn't it? However, he went to Twitter to say, looks like Overwatch Marvel Rivals ships tomorrow, much like Light of Motrium, a clear copy of Horizon Zero Dawn out of China. I mean, even the character name, Widowmaker in...
This is the most idiotic thing a person could say. Widowmaker in Overwatch versus Black Widow in Marvel Rivals. Like, tell me you didn't know about Black Widow without telling me you didn't know about Black Widow. Like, she's been around for 50 years, man.
Overwatch versus Black Widow in Marvel Rivals, LOL, NetEase, Tencent, all the same. Ironic coming from somebody that used to work for Blizzard, a company that outside of a few hits has built its entire empire off of copying successful games, modernizing them, and then re-releasing them to even more success. I mean,
that's what Blizzard did. It makes no freaking sense.
Overwatch isn't even original. Most of its core mechanics and premise were directly taken from Team Fortress 2, but I've seen a lot of people comment on this tweet. However, the one thing that I see that apparently nobody else does is fear and coping. If Palworld ever beats the sales of a Pokemon release, if Marvel Rivals buries Overwatch, if Light of Motrium outsells Horizon, what does that say about the empires that you've built and the game?
It means that you're not listening to the player base, and if these games beat your game, that means that you are doing something better than what they did, right? It means that you're making a better product for the actual consumers, and this is why they like that game better than your game. It's not about stealing anything. It's about making me interested. When I look at a movie trailer, I'm like, yeah, that movie looks good. When I read the back of a book and go, that sounds great, I'm going to read this book over the other book. When I look at the trailer of a game, I go, yeah, that interests me. I want to play that.
Games that you've made. If somebody can simply walk up, take what you've done, make it more fun, more edgy, more sexy, or whatever, and then immediately find success, aren't you the one that's failing to meet your customers' needs? Overwatch was massive when it first released, and it held that popularity for a long time. However, Blizzard, over the years, squandered all of the goodwill that they had created with that game. They killed their competitive...
Because there was no competition. They literally had no competition, and then they became complacent, and they're like, oh, we can do whatever we want, right?
Seen by getting rid of the Overwatch League, they erased the original game when making Overwatch 2, effectively bricking physical copies just because they wanted to push people into a new microtransaction ecosystem. For many, that was the breaking point. The players that remained behind did so because they actually believed in the promises that Blizzard had made for Overwatch 2. The PvE mode, the added depth, the value that was supposed to come with all of these great sacrifices that they forced upon the player. But in the end, all of that was taken away. All the future plans and promises were canceled. What they were left with was a stagnant live service game that was no better than the original version, that barely even changed, and had only taken their money and their hope. There's no loyalty there anymore. So when we see a new game like Marvel Rivals step out onto the scene, it has a ton of recognizable characters, more depth, and a clear vision of the future. Well, it's easy to see why players would go to play that game. I mean, Blizzard is practically forcing them to at this point. That's why I always thought it was odd when I would see how often games media would talk about why Sony's Concord failed, claiming that it had to do with the fact that the hero shooter genre just wasn't in style anymore.
That was the wrong thing to say. It's not in style. I said personally, right, that it didn't make it because it was oversaturated. There was too many games, right? And it has to stand out above the rest. And Concord didn't do that. Okay. This game does that in many different aspects. Visually, gameplay-wise, the different strategy that's in the game with the characters that you have, with the team-ups.
It had nothing to do with that. In fact, I would like to believe that there's probably a growing hunger out there for something to replace Overwatch because there are so few experiences like that.
This is also great timing, by the way, right? Great timing. Also, another good timing of a game. What was the other one? Once Human that came out, right? The day before was hyping up the entire thing. The day before came out and bombed 3 days later. They closed the studio down and whatnot. But what came in that time was Once Human. It just came out of nowhere. It was like Once Human just dropped, and they're like, oh, wait, this is like, right? And it swooped in. Overwatch were saying certain things, and then they didn't do it. And then all of a sudden, Marvel Rivals like, well, here you go. We have it. I'm telling you, if this game had a PvE mode, Overwatch would be done. Done.
That in the market right now. There are so few low-commitment, fun games that have great multiplayer experiences with low bars of entry and high ceilings for competitive play. That's why Overwatch succeeded for so long. It stayed true the entire time. Marvel Rivals is finding success because that need is still there in the market. Concord didn't fail because of the genre. It failed because it lacked the one thing that Marvel Rivals has in abundance: character. In an interview with Eurogamer, Thaddeus Sasser, the director of Marvel Rivals, said that Concord didn't bring any unique value, and that's the reason why it failed.
Yep.
Saying that the truth is, I don't think anybody can predict this, or the games industry would be radically different today. There are a lot of games that come out that people are like, it's going to do well, and it flops. or people are like, it's going to flop and then it succeeds amazingly. I think it's really hard to tell ahead of time, and you're always worried about that. The trick is you have to have that reason that people want to come play your game. I think that Marvel Rivals does that exactly with superheroes. I don't know about you, but when I heard about the game's concept, I was like, oh my God, I want to go be Storm in the game. I want to go be Doctor Strange in the game. I want to be those heroes in the game. That sounds awesome. And of course, my mind immediately leapt to all of the cool possibilities that you could have with that. And that's what I think will pull people in. And I think he's right. Heck, I don't even remember any of the names of the characters from Concord, and I don't think anybody will.
I don't know anybody. I don't know any of the names of the characters, and I don't care. Don't care. I also don't know many characters from the first Descendant, except Bunny and Freya. Other than that, I don't know any other. Kyle, I think, was another one, right? I know more of those characters than I know anybody from Concord.
Concord really didn't do anything. It had these...
And the point of me saying that is Marvel's been around for so long, you just by passing, oh, that's Iron Man. That's Thor. That's Captain America.
Characters that weren't all that well designed.
It's Freena? Whatever.
People didn't really want to play as them or even get to know them, and the developers just...
Point stands, Altern. I don't know who they are, and I don't care.
Assumed that we would want to get to know them. We know that because they had this whole plan and business strategy around delivering seasonal movies for their cast of characters. You either have to hook players with something that they know, or you have to tantalize them with something that is so cool that they need to know more about it. Concord did neither of those things while also looking not really all that entertaining to play. Another justification that I'm seeing right now as well is that the reason why Marvel Rivals is doing so well is because it's free to play. And then
well, that helps. That helps. Right? But if this was a $40 game, it would still sell well. But it would be done to make it a $40 game in a landscape of other games out there that are free to play. So you have to at least match your competition. The competition is free, so you have to make it free.
They make the comparison and say, well, the reason why Concord failed was because it was $40. It would have done better if it was free to play. I don't think that that's as big of an impact as many in games media or even the industry thinks it is. From my perspective, when you make a game free to play, you're essentially just removing the ceiling on what kind of success a game can have, because you can basically reach any audience, anywhere, at any economic.
Well, here's also a thing. A $40 game that's incomplete is a worse game than a free-to-play game that's complete. Free-to-play games have to work because they need to keep you in the game, because they're not making any money off you right off the bat. A $40 game doesn't need to be as good, and they can fix it over time because they already have the $40 in their hand, right? And that's why free-to-play games are better games when they launch than games that are full price, because they have to keep you engaged. Because their business model is make it a fun game, make it a big game, make it a game that you don't want to leave, and you'll spend at least a minimum of $40.
Status, but at the end of the day, if a game is good enough or interesting enough, or it's a game that players just genuinely want to play, they will buy that game.
Sure.
I mean, Call of Duty still...
But it has to be fun. And if I can... This is why I think demos are great. If I could play a demo of your game and it's a fun game, I'll buy your game. Right? If your game doesn't look fun and I have to pay $40 to find out about it, that's a wall.
Still sells gangbusters. Overwatch wasn't free to play when it first came out, and it still did really well, and it stayed popular.
Overwatch had multiple betas that you could try it out beforehand, and it was supposed to be free, but then they charged money for it, which that was a talking point a lot of people forgot about.
Popular for a really long time. I just don't think it's as big of a factor as people make it out to be. People will buy the games.
Sure.
Seen that?
I mean, look, if your problem is buying a $40 game and you're broke, you might have to reevaluate your life, okay? $40 is not a big thing. You're going out and you buy 4 coffees for your family or whatever at Starbucks. It's the same price.
All year round. The most successful games this year were games that were sold, not necessarily games that were free to play. Look at Black Myth Wukong. Look at Baldur's Gate 3 last year. Look at Elden Ring. Look at Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. There are tons of examples of games that sold just fine and really weren't limited by the fact that people had to pay for them. It's actually crazy is that I can't remember exactly what video this is from. I'd almost guarantee it's from a wake-up call. But I talked about how none of these
Exactly right, Kylo. Kylo says, man, without the Division 1 demo, I would have never looked at the game. The demo was better than the damn release product. But that's the sale pitch, right? They show you something, you play the demo, and you're like, all right, it's a fun game, I'm going to buy it.
these live service games, none of these publishers are out there creating any goodwill with their audience. All they're doing is creating a scenario in which players are ready to be taken away from them at any given moment, because all they do is take. They just take. It's always a net negative for the players and a net positive for them because they keep making money. And because of that, you're not building any loyalty. And that's why I think a game like this is succeeding, is because in a lot of cases, it's just players that have been burned by other games that have been waiting for something else.
Sure. And I think perfect timing. Swooping in when Overwatch was at its lowest point.
And this is the shiny new toy, and it looks really fun and cool, and it's recognizable, and that's why players are going to play it. And what's crazy is that
Robert Jones says, besides COD, what paid multiplayer games are selling well? I mean, Battlefield sold well, even though it was broke, buggy, and unfinished. I mean, it does. I mean, sell as much as COD, or just selling well? Like, Battlefield sold well. I think it sold like 6 million copies or something like that, right? There's really not many games that are paid that are selling as good as COD, right? BattleBit was $30, right? Half the price of COD. Apex was free, right? PUBG, like a Tarkov, maybe the Extraction games, right? But as far as like fighting games, most of them are free.
Any company could build loyalty. They could actually hold on to their player base. I think a really good example of this is Path of Exile and Warframe. Years of customer.
Here's the thing I think that might have happened, right? Overwatch, and maybe this is why they got rid of the PvE, right? I would have to go back and look at the timeline of when they canceled the PvE. But maybe they didn't know about NetEase was working on Marvel Rivals. Just like PUBG didn't know Fortnite or Epic was working on Fortnite Battle Royale, right? Because Fortnite was working on survival, the Save the World. And PUBG was the king of the hill as far as Battle Royales go. And then all of a sudden, Fortnite came in and boom, came in and snuck in and then took the reins from them. And they've never looked back, okay? Maybe Overwatch and Blizzard, they were so like, we're just going to make Overwatch 2. We're going to do the PvE stuff. We're going to do all this other stuff. And then all of a sudden they got the smell of, wait a minute. They're making a game just like Overwatch. And they said, all hands on deck. We have to stop making PvE stuff. We need to make this because this is the competition. Maybe. Okay? But it just seems very odd to me that you would strive to make Overwatch 2 single player, PvE, leveling up, make it more complex type of stuff, and then all of a sudden be like, yeah, we're not doing any of that. And all of a sudden Marvel Rivals comes out and then takes the rest of the player base, right? So it's like a perfect storm for Marvel Rivals right now.
Satisfaction, and those players are stuck to those games. They're not going anywhere. Every single time they do an update, bam, player numbers shoot up. Path of Exile just released Path of Exile 2. Game blows up. Over 500,000 players on Steam. Who knows how many players across other platforms? Blizzard could have done that, but they didn't. They instead wanted to milk their players for all they're worth. And while I don't think we're going to see, a massive impact in the player base of Overwatch immediately, we probably will see it over time. Because keep in mind, those players are invested over there. They have skins. They've been playing the game. They understand the game. They know the meta.
Oh, they're getting hit on multiple sides. Water, not just Path of Exile 2 and Rivals, they're also getting hit in their MMO section as well.
The people that are in the competitive scene, they're invested for other reasons as well. So you're not going to see a lot of those people move immediately, but I do think you're going to see it slowly happen over time, because one game has a bright future and the other game is just, I don't know. I think that Marvel Rivals...
I thought that's what you meant, Jones, that you were just talking about shooters. That's why I didn't bring up any kind of sports games like they were.
Director is absolutely right when he's talking about creating something to entice players to come over to your games. And for him, he's using the example.
Obviously, because in the context, we're talking about Marvel Rivals. So you're talking about a PvP competitive type of game.
example of the characters, which he's absolutely right in that. I think that, having the IP is huge. It's very recognizable. People want to go play as the Marvel characters. I have my favorite. Most people have their favorite characters. It's fun to play them as those characters. And it's also fun to fill that, player fantasy or that power fantasy of playing as that character and using their powers against other heroes and stuff like that. But one thing that I think that Marvel Rivals has proved that the industry is not going to be very happy with, and it's that players do care about how their characters look.
100%. Hey, look, I don't even know why this is a fucking talking point. I'm not saying from him, just in the industry itself, right? There's literally customization when you play a single player game, and people spend 2 hours making their character. If it's ugly, if it's good, if it's bad, the customization on games where you make your own characters should tell you wonders of why people care about their characters the way they look. If I want to look like myself, if I want to make a really ugly character, if I want to make a best looking character I've ever created in my entire life, like, of course the gamers care about how their characters look, right? Each your own, but you care. So why is it a surprise they're like, yeah, we want good looking characters, right? Unless you're a streamer trying to make people laugh and make a shitty, ugly character, most of the time when you're playing a game, you're trying to make a badass looking character because you're playing that character for the next 30, 60, 80, 100 hours.
Something that I've taken a while to figure out how to properly voice is that games across the board.
And if I can't make my character, of course I want the predetermined character to look badass. I don't want to play some ugly character that's like super overweight or whatnot. I'm sorry. That doesn't sell. Master Chief, okay, is not 500 pounds and round. He's a killing machine in a badass suit of armor. You see what I'm saying? It's a predetermined character. He has to look awesome.
Need to do a better job at inviting players in to actually play their games. And making your game beautiful and attractive is the best way to do this. Now,
of course it is.
Figuratively and literally. Dark Souls or Elden Ring don't need hot characters to bring you in. It hooks you with the setting, the vistas, the brutality. Path of Exile.
Yeah, but even in those games, the character looks cool.
Exile 2 entices you with the grotesque nature of its world. However, games that the player character is the main focus, narrative-driven RPGs, or in this case, the hero shooter genre, it is incredibly important to make sure that those characters are going to attract the player in to actually want to play as those characters, to learn about them, to be them, and ultimately buy cosmetics for them. Marvel Rivals understands this and executes on it with style. Before this game was even released, I can...
Roic says, my friend won't play Druid in D4 because it looks like a refrigerator. Yeah, it looks they look bad. I play Druid, right? The Druid look cool for the man, but the woman doesn't look good as a Druid inside D4. It just doesn't.
Cannot tell you guys how many times I saw images of Squirrel Girl floating around Twitter, Reddit, and Discord conversations. Hell, the first time that I was even introduced to this game was because of a tweet that I had seen where apparently one of the models that had posed for one of the characters and their CGI had been leaked. And
do you think... Here, let me back up here for a second.
Apparently one of the models...
Do you think Psylocke would sell better if her... Obviously, if this wasn't a Marvel character, right? We're playing a different game, and she's 450 pounds, right? Do you think she would look better? And people would be like, man, I can't wait to play that character. Get out of here. You said yes, you're a liar. You're a liar. You would never touch her. You would never ever play her. You'd be like, nah, I don't want to do that. The hitbox is too big.
Their CGI had been leaked, and the body model for Psylocke proudly let everybody know that that was her ass in the video game. Rivals has some of the slickest designs that I have seen in this year so far. They do an insane job of blending comic designs and anime designs in a way that doesn't take away from the original art of the characters. They still remain just as iconic, but they're updated for more modern sensibilities and tastes. You want to play as these characters, and the game invites you to do that because of how great they look. When you actually play the game, it's even better. You're bouncing between these menus and flashing yellow lightning characters popping out of the selection screens. They have these awesome intro animations, and in-game, the art style flows between this hand-drawn cartoon and cel-shaded thing that feels like it's straight out of the Spider-Verse movies, which were really incredibly popular and visually beautiful. When I go back and I look at games like
Look at this. She's not fat, right? It has nothing to do with being fat or skinny, right? But look what they did to Harley. Is that a cool skin? I can't wait to look for trailer park trash Harley.
Concord or Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League, it's clear that character designs play a huge role in drawing players in. Yet these games
that's a hot one.
Miss the mark. In Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League, for example,
Aaron Freeze.
They gave their rendition of Miss Freeze, and that felt completely detached from the character that we know and love. When you look across all of the characters and rivals, every single design jumps out of the screen, showing you something fresh, interesting, and recognizable. And I think the same thing can be said for
what is that? What is that? If I don't know your character, you better make your character fucking badass looking for me to show some sort of interest.
Concord, where the characters just felt completely forgettable. They didn't inspire curiosity. The designs felt so generic that there really wasn't even a reason for you to care. There was nothing about the game that screamed come and play, nothing to make you want to learn about their backstory or even experience the gameplay. And I think it's really important to take notice that Marvel Rivals has completely avoided this broader trend that we've seen across the industry, this heavy lean into socially progressive design choices that, I'll be honest, I just don't find them aesthetically pleasing. Nothing to do with personal beliefs or ideologies. I just don't think they look interesting or cool, and oftentimes they feel forced and uninspired.
Why would I want to play a game for 30, 40, 80, 100, 200 hours if the character looks like shit?
Characters that are introduced with seemingly little depth, lacking substance, and designs that are so clinical and uninspired that they fail to generate any excitement or interest. Instead, they're just turning players away. I've seen a lot of people ask the question, why do you even care? If you don't like the way that it looks, just don't play it.
Great. That's exactly what people did. They didn't like the way they looked, and they didn't play it. And the game bombed, and then guess who was to blame? The people that didn't buy it.
And that's the thing. People are not playing these games. They are failing by either creative choices or choices that are rooted in their own worldview. I want games to succeed. I want games to do well.
I want all games to succeed. I want games to be badass and fun to play.
I don't want developers to lose their jobs or studios to go out of business. I want more games to play, and the only way for that to happen is for more studios and publishers to face reality. Baldur's Gate 3 and Larian Studios' director of publishing, Michael Dow, stated this perfectly. He said, 2025 and beyond is going to be an extremely tough time to ship a game, with division spilling into everything. I have one practical piece of advice that, to some, seem controversial, but it's crucial. Anticipate, don't ignore, or ridicule, or stoke. Figure it out, navigate the waters, even if you think they're unfair, or that the sea shouldn't be that rough. The reality is that it is. And he's absolutely right. That's just the reality of the world.
He's saying it right now. Sorry, but that's life. That is the reality of the world.
Ultimately, when a game fails to deliver on its foundational elements, strong, engaging characters and designs that invite players to connect, everything else becomes irrelevant. Players need to feel drawn into these games' world, and they need to be invited in before they can even get to the gameplay. While many may wish that the world was different and they want to project their worldview onto their games and their characters, you are selling a commercial product that people are expected to buy for you to stay in business. And if they don't like the way that it looks, they're not going to play it. Now, I want to be
exactly right. Hey, if I don't like the way a person looks, I'm not going to date them. If I don't like a place that it looks, if my food looks off at a place, I won't eat there. Right? Just what it is, man. Hence why things look good. Because you're attracted to things. If you just went outside and you saw like a shitty place, right? It's trash fires going on and a Shangri-La. Which one are you walking towards? You're like, it might be cool to go over to the shitty looking place, but something bad's probably going to happen over there. Hence why it's in the state that it's in. So you're drawn to the prettier place. Okay? Until you look at the price tag and you're like, I can't afford that. I can't afford that nice place. I'm going to go back to the shitty place.
Be crystal clear on this because this is social media. People can and will frequently take you out of context and completely miss the plot when it comes to these conversations. So I'm going to be literal as possible. Looks alone will not and cannot bring you continued success. They can garner attention, but clarity eventually will take over and interest will be lost if there's nothing else there beyond the looks. A perfect example of this is The First Descendant. This game has some of the
First Descendant looks fantastic. Gameplay's fun, right? But it's repetitive, and it's kind of just like, it's very repetitive. Now, if you made the same exact game, First Descendant, but put an IP that's known well in the same gameplay as First Descendant, it would be a bigger game because of the IPs carrying at that point, right? So if you make two things the exact same, and one's not known and one is known, the one that's known is going to do better than the one that's not known because they just have no interest in those characters.
Hottest character designs that you can find in gaming without having to private your Steam library.
That's right.
Many people celebrated the release of The First Descendant. It soared up to 260,000 players on Steam within the first week of its launch. It was well received on console, and it quickly became the flag to fly in the face of developers that were creating games for the mythical modern audience and the journalists that defended them. I played The First Descendant. I reviewed it on this channel. And while I felt it controlled well, it was one of the most shallow games that I've ever played. It was repetitive. It lacked diversity in gameplay, in content, and its progression and monetization was completely taken from Warframe, but they had gotten rid of all of the fairness and generosity. Overall, the game just had no soul. And to nobody's surprise, the game lost 94% of its player base.
Well, most games will lose that much because maybe people played it through the campaign and then stopped. Maybe people got to a certain point, got that one character and then stopped, right?
Since launch. And the truth of the matter is, you need to have more than that. And I think that Marvel Rivals is likely going to be that proof of concept. It has shown that success in live service, or any game for that matter, is about making a game that resonates. It's about the combination of all factors that make a game successful. Marvel Rivals performs well, it's smooth to play, it has accessible gameplay that feels familiar yet fresh, it has a lot of depth, it has a high ceiling for skill expression, it has some stunning artwork and character designs, and most importantly, it's a game that understands what players want, respects it, and delivers it. And it's just a fun game.
Here's the thing, right? Just because it's Marvel doesn't mean it'll succeed. Look at Marvel's Avengers. Look at Guardians of the Galaxy. Look at Marvel Midnight Sun, right? All three of those titles are all Marvel brands. I'll even throw Marvel Future Revolution in there, right? Games came out, they made money, but they underperformed in all those categories. Every single one of those games underperformed. Guardians of the Galaxy, Marvel's Avengers, Marvel's Midnight Sun, and Future Revolution. Right? Now you have this one that's succeeding.
Game. At the end of the day, that's exactly what we need these games to be. It's the most important thing is for these games to be fun and enjoyable, and that's exactly what Marvel Rivals is. It's very light. It doesn't feel high commitment or anything like that. I love the character designs. I love the animations of the game. I just like playing the game. It's just fun to play. And that's what you want from a game like this. You know, I've seen a lot of the reviews for this game talk about how it's just a messier version of Overwatch. And while
that's the wrong mentality to have. I've said this before. People are like, they should do this with this game and make it like Overwatch. Make this like Overwatch. They should do this like Overwatch. It's like, then go play Overwatch. Go play Overwatch. Overwatch is still there. Not gone. You can still go play Overwatch. Stop trying to make Rivals into Overwatch.
Well, I think that's true in some cases because there's so many characters and they have so many abilities and there's the synergies and the team ups and stuff like that. At the same time, that's kind of the charm of the game. That's why the game's so much fun, is because of the chaos. It's one of those things where it's actually more difficult to describe and it's better off experience. So I highly recommend, if you guys like these kind of games, go give it a shot. I think it's really cool. Plus, on top of that, I just like to see games like this succeed in the first place because I think they do show off a really good example of what players are looking for in games today. And it gives a better through line for other developers to emulate that success and, follow the leader in this case. And, you know, to be honest with you, this game came out of left field for me. I was not expecting this game. And
it didn't come out of left field for me, but last year's mentality was keep my expectations low. I played the beta. I really enjoyed the beta. And played the second beta. Really enjoyed the second beta, right? The two betas that came out, whatever. And when it came out, I didn't really talk about it until 3 days before. Then we started talking about it because then I was excited about it. Okay, because it was coming out. Where it was just smooth the entire time we played it those multiple times. And then when it came out, I was just like, man, this is good. It's a good game.
I keep doing this to myself. I had written this game off entirely because I saw it was made by NetEase. And
well, yeah, I mean, hold up there, Legendary Drop. Right now, we're still in the honeymoon phase. Let NetEase cook, right? They could ruin it. They could have a Sony Helldivers moment down the road.
I am one of those people that used to have.
Hopefully not. Maybe they learned their lesson. Maybe because of stuff that happened in the past, okay, they learned their lesson. Maybe they learned their lesson from Marvel's Future Revolution.
Have a bias towards a lot of Chinese game developers because I was always seeing the same kind of games coming out from them. Usually just blatant cash grabs, gotcha games, things like that, and it's just not for me. I like things that value my time and money, and oftentimes the games that were coming out of there were games that didn't do that. And I had written off Once Human. I was proven wrong. I written off Black Myth Wukong. I was proven wrong. I wrote off Marvel Rivals, and here I am again, proven wrong. So I am just gonna, not sell myself up river when it comes to some of these games anymore. But
when they first showed it, I was like, it's just Overwatch, but with Marvel. But then I played the beta and I was like, oh, it's way more. The team ups to me were a big selling point.
It's crazy to see like what is going on with China. Genuinely, I'm wondering if it's just because of the fact that they're not dialed into like the social politics and like social progressive nature of like just general discourse in the West and stuff like that. That they just cut through all of the BS and see like what consumers want to buy as a product and just make that product, and they ignore everything else. And that's probably why they're finding so much success right now, is because they're basically just ignoring all of the noise of the world and just making a video game as a video game and not really thinking about anything else. And it goes a long way. It's giving them and bringing them a lot of success. And I think that the crazy thing is like the East in general has cleaned up 2024.
Oh, yeah.
2020.
Yeah, 2024 was the year of China.
2025 is probably going to be just the exact same thing. Because if you looked at the Game Awards, a lot of the biggest releases were games that were coming from the East. Capcom's cooking. You got a couple of the other Chinese developers that are cooking right now. You got some South Korean developers are starting to cook a little bit. They just need to get off of that bad monetization stuff. That's a problem with like some of the Eastern games, man, is that like they have some of the most overt monetization, and it just makes you want to have nothing to do with their game. They have some.
I think one of my things is against microtransactions or whatnot. I just think Marvel Rivals, and again, this is just my opinion, and people will disagree with me. I just think the even though they're bundling them together with like 5 things, an emote, a skin, a bunch of different stuff, I still think the microtransactions are just a little too high. $10, not $22, not $28. Right? I don't like it in Fortnite. I don't like it in a lot of other things. Like if they lowered the price, they would make way more money. And I know they don't believe they would. But for every person that pays $28, there's 5 people that are not going to pay $28, but they would buy 3 skins at $10. You see what I'm saying? They would buy multiple skins if the price was lower instead of buying no skins because the price is too high.
Great premises for games, and then they just ruin it. And I'll be honest with you, like I look at a game like Lost Ark. I think this is probably the best example of it. Lost Ark, as a concept, is such an incredible game, but the problem is that you put all the like gotcha mechanics with leveling up weapons that completely undermine the reason why you would play.
I played the shit out of Lost Ark. We have over 140 hours, 150 hours.
Play a game like that in the first place. If you're playing an MMO, it's to get cool weapons and equipment and make your character stronger. But when you make people pay for that, well, then why would I even play the game? The achievement of getting that stuff rather than buying it is the reason why people like playing those games in the first place. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know. Anyway, speaking of 2025, this is likely my last video of the year. I just want to say thank you guys for everything. This year has been...
This man's had a hell of a year. Hell of a year. Okay? I believe he lost his job this time, or when he was making this video last year, and he started making videos. Okay? And within the year, he had over 100,000. He's over like 231,000. Like, insane. Insane.
Wild. I was laid off this time last year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here, and in a year's time, here I am now in a new career that you guys have so graciously given to me, because you guys support
Insane.
this channel, you guys support the videos, you share the videos, you subscribe, you like the videos and comment and hang out in the Discord and show up to streams and stuff like that. And it's changed my life in an indescribable way. I'm not a rich man or anything like that. I'm just living a solid life.
You're making good. You're doing good now.
And I'm doing something
He didn't know, but last year losing his job was a blessing in disguise.
that I love to do, and I appreciate you guys for empowering me to be able to do just that. And I just want to say thank you. That's it. Stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe, and Merry Christmas, you filthy animals.
I like his content. Let me put his. I didn't have this because we weren't going to watch it, but then right before the show started, so let me put his link down in the description below, because we always try to put the guys' channels and stuff down below. So that's a good video. His channel. Let me look up something real fast. It's insane. How many people he's got this year? Let me see. In this 1 year, I mean, holy Christ, that is a lot. Let's see. Detailed. Yeah, from 1 year ago to now, he started. So back in November 2023, he had 27,500 on November 27th, 2023. Okay. By the end of last year, December 29th, he had 30,000. And today he's got 231,000. He's gotten 200,000 subscribers this year. Like, wow. That's insane. Good for him. If you build it, they will come.